Oh man, so I don't know if you heard about this. This is an amusing incident today.
Okay.
It hasn't exactly been the best labor year in any sector,
No.
other than, I don't know, yacht designer,
Officer of the law.
officer of the law.
Despite what one of them might tell you about how badly their feelings have been hurt lately.
Truly, out of all 12, some can be fucked. Today, or it might have been a few days ago, my sense of time is completely warped at this point.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I went back to work, like physically back to work sometime in June.
Mm-hmm.
You've been at work, but from your laptop since last March, and I sort of have a concept of what that'd be like, right? Because I was, today's a 1-year anniversary, by the way. Happy 500,000.
I prefer half mil. It just rolls off the tongue.
Yeah,
Happy half mil.
Happy half mil. Thank you for downplaying it because of the squiggly line, you orange piece of shit.
It's okay. It wasn't only.
I hope you get fucked to death in Rikers.
But back to your point.
Yes, back to my point. Around three or so months into that whole mess, I was starting to lose my sense of time. But you are now 12 months into it, and I only have the vaguest idea of what it might feel like.
There was a trick in breakdancing called a jackhammer.
Mm-hmm.
That I only had the strength to do in fucking undergrad. Because you pop up and down while you're horizontal on one hand.
That would destroy my shoulders.
Very possible.
If I tried it.
It happens often.
I'm not gonna be modest. I'm in very good shape. That would destroy at least 2 of my joints if I tried that. I don't know how anyone could do that with the same happening to them.
And the only time I had the strength, weight, whatever ratio to fucking do that bullshit was for 3 months in 2013 when I was breakdancing instead of studying.
Sure.
So I started doing this bodyweight thing in quarantine because I'm basically in jail.
Mm-hmm.
And I can actually do 2 jackhammers now. And I don't know.
It's like being at your high school weight.
Yeah, I don't know where Monday begins and Sunday ends, but I know I can do 2 jackhammers, and I want to do 3 jackhammers.
Here's what was happening. I was doing this thing where every morning I would wake up and I'd just have a morning routine. I would make coffee. I would get dressed as if I was going out that day. I was not. And then I would spend the entire day looking at how many people had died on Facebook. Because at that point in time, I think they got rid of it. At that point in time, Facebook had this whole thing that told you very quickly, you could access it very easily, how many people had died. I've since just gotten off of Facebook in general, probably not the least of which because of this fucking tool and just how...
It's fucking potent.
It was basically self-harm. Just forcing myself to look at... I think someone has... It's been mentioned before that there's this sort of thing called something not electronic, but social media self-harm. It's not even that. It's but it's basically shit like doom scrolling or exposing yourself to cyberbullying, that kind of thing. Because of something. I don't
think
know.
There's something to that as a concept. Like, you can totally see when someone's doing a virtual kamikaze.
Yes.
Like, they have those roasting discords or subreddits. Well, just only one subreddit, but whatever. Where, like, you sign up to, be insulted in a roast-like manner. And
see, that fucking ruled, though. I did.
It does rule. Some people don't do it for the best reason.
No, perhaps not.
But it does. The content itself... I mean, a lot of things are like that. But,
yeah,
I could totally see the virtual kamikaze being a thing with fucking social media doom scrolling. And I'm glad you got off of the fucking face hole, because what lieth there but shadow?
No, I'm just... I think I've mentioned it on the podcast before. I just am on Instagram for the dogs. That's it. That is my last connection to social media. I also... Oh, yeah, you know what? No. I have a permanent link to my partner's Twitter page, because sometimes they will... I like to see what kind of stuff that they think is neat because they will retweet, stuff that they think is neat. A lot of the time it's fun art.
I suppose that's a more efficient system than shaking their shoulder at fucking 3 a.m. Hey, what you watching lately? Hey, is anything good on?
Every now and again, they will tweet about me, and I like seeing people mention my name, so there's that too.
Alright, my original point about this incident, that it's not a good, funny thing, but the timing is funny.
Oh yeah, you were telling a story.
So, the Huffington Post in its eternal downward spiral, a good thing happened in that their Canadian branch just unionized, like, across the board.
Oh, that's great.
Then, about 5 minutes later, they shut down the Canadian branch. Like, it was so fast you can't fucking believe it.
You people say that you believe in things.
And I want you to remember, this is the Huffington Post.
It's the anti-Breitbart.
The lip service mouthpiece of our fucking generation. Mm-hmm. It had a phase where, like, Slate looked like fucking Fox, or at least Centerline C-SPAN relative to what they would put out, just guns out, fuck it. And the second they caught a whiff of a union, they don't even know if it's a powerful union. It could have been the most limp-wristed rubber stamp union in fucking Canadian history.
But that was fucking it then.
They took that dog out back and shot it, and that's some wild shit.
I was, speaking of imposters, I was at the subway today, and, like an actual hard-in-the-paint communist sees my anti-Nazi patch and gives me some literature and makes me feel like, what the fuck have I been doing this entire time? Because I don't actually know that I don't really organize with anyone. Mostly, around, let's say last November, I was just sort of stomping around our neighborhood hoping that a Proud Boy would see me because I was carrying it. I'm not actually going to incriminate myself because I was hoping that we could get in an argument, maybe.
You're hoping for some spirited debate.
So that's sort of like the extent of the actions that I took beyond, like Danny would suggest a thing to donate to, and I'd be like, yeah, sure. So I was like, yeah, solidarity. I've read the literature.
I've heard rumors about this.
Spectre Europe, yeah. I love the work you guys do, though.
I like the time that you guys, you got rid of the Monopoly piece that's like the fast car. That was really cool. And the money bag, I bet you beat that Monopoly piece too. Good shit. Yeah, it's funny running into stuff in the wild when you have, the freedom to walk outside without dying, which isn't really a feature of the pandemic, and something I could almost relate to about today's show in a really sideways kind of way.
I was wondering how we were going to segue.
I am potent. My ninjutsu is fucking great. Because the fucking Pacific Rim universe probably has one of the fuckiest overworld maps to travel in science fiction.
I'm thinking of, like, the fucking Gundam map, how there's just a big fucking hole where Sydney used to be. I imagine it looks something like that, except, more of them.
Except, like, more of them, though. According to this show, one of them is definitely in Sydney.
So, Pacific Rim The Black is the 7-episode Netflix series, anime series, and I would say that this counts as anime. I don't think the Blood of the Gods quite did. If you have to draw a line between what is anime and what is not anime, I draw the line between Castlevania on the anime side and Blood of the Gods on the not quite anime side.
My pithy one for this one is, could this show have progressed naturally if Gargoyles had come out but Tezuka died in his sleep at some point? And I think that Zeus could have rolled around and this would look very different. Especially this one down to the fucking character designs. They're definitely trying to evoke the direct mecha lineage. And, Pacific Rim, just as a cultural product, is DNA level.
Amazingly, you could almost say that the original movie, live action though it may have been, was anime. And I don't know that I necessarily agree with you, but I think it's definitely a defensible position.
at least as far as cross-platform love letters go, Pacific Rim is like as strong a love letter to the concept of mecha. Ironically, not ironic, it's not irony, but interestingly drawing basically from the Super Robot spectrum on the characterization front and Real Robot on the world consequences and action style front.
Oh, I don't know. I've seen plenty of dark Super Robot shows that feel kind of like Pacific Rim does.
Fair enough. Maybe I just need to widen my fucking Mazinger roots.
Voltes V, Daitarn 5, that kind of stuff. It was called the... Okay, I can't remember the third entry because I never saw it, but there's a thing called, like, the Robot Romance Trilogy.
Recommend one of the better ones to me, because I can already kind of see how you do that. Like, it's almost like how Berserk plays out, like, the world sucks, this one guy is borderline invincible, it can't de-suck the world.
Yeah, maybe one of these days we'll just get around to watching one or all three of these, but, like, yeah, it's Daitarn 5, or... Yeah, Daitarn 5, Voltes V, and then there's a third one, and I'm forgetting its name, but those three, like, they were all done by the same team, had the same dude behind them, had the same kind of bittersweet, this is all very destructive kind of vibe to them. I sort of see Pacific Rim as being a little bit part of that lineage, but also very much its own thing.
Alright, so maybe much more of a direct love letter than I anticipated. So this is a continuation within that film's universe, as Sam established, and...
I think it takes place after the second film.
Yeah. And not to flatten our whole episode dialogue around the various elements, but some shows are animated and not written, and some shows are written and not animated. And boy, do I like the things my ears were hearing during Into the Black and the episode summaries of Into the Black. And honestly, a lot of the robot on kaiju sequences Into the Black sort of work in the style. But it is a testament to how much I like fucking robots that I didn't pull a Doro Hedoro on how everything looked.
Yeah, I was wanting to do that a whole lot because this entire animation style was a mistake and we need to go fucking back. Like, I don't necessarily mind it for some of the between shots and, say, Attack on Titan or whatever, right? But when you have every single fucking movement of everyone's fucking mouth, if you have all of the characters constantly animated in this style, doesn't look good. Doesn't look good. Anime character designs were not meant to exist in a 3D space.
I don't know why shows like this keep cropping up other than the fact that Montiam's brief, glorious sparkler of a life had one really catch on. Maybe it's cost effective. I don't know.
It must be. It must be. Otherwise, why? Because they know that it looks like shit. They have to know that it looks like shit.
Is it more cost effective than just a 3D show in a style that embraces the 3D thing more, or...
God, I have to fucking wonder.
Like, would a low detail, like, fucking Dream... Because I know DreamWorks does TV shows, so there has to be, like, a TV budget level.
Well, those look kind of shitty, too, but in different ways.
In a different ways, like...
They're way more, The animation makes everyone look more like a puppet than this. This, everyone's just very stiff.
And am I not being fair to just the amount of sheer human borderline slavery it takes to make 3D animation work?
Could be... I don't know.
Like, is that it? But I don't know. Just because something is hard, it doesn't mean it contributes to the art of the thing. Like, it would be hard to... write your script, then translate it into Swahili, then translate it into Latin, then translate it into Japanese, translate it back to English, back to Chinese, and back to English, and just pop that on TV that way. But you'd have something really chopped and fucking screwed at that point. Shit, that's intellectually interesting, but you get what I'm trying to say.
I think that there's a program online that you could use to do something like that. Like, you type in a sentence and you have it run through Google Translate, one of however many times you choose.
Remind me to look that up.
I think I found it on Reddit once. Oh, I'm also not on Reddit anymore. That was a good idea, too.
Yeah, Reddit is as much of a time hole as walking across the country on foot, but you will not get any of the endurance benefits.
No. No, you'll just get angry at something and disillusioned.
So
I have an idea that I guess I want to talk about insofar as this show. So this show, the premise is that all the efforts to stop and beat the kaiju of the last two movies have completely been for naught. Right? The kaiju have reinvaded because of the precursors sending them. I think they're referred to as the precursors in canon. Because of the precursors sending them across rifts to the point where they have to abandon entire continents. For instance, Australia, which is where this series takes place. Just Australia after everyone after it was evacuated by all but basically Mad Max gangs.
In short, it's not going well.
But the what I'm getting at, right, is there is this conversation that is had sometimes, especially as regards sequels, when the premise of the sequel is the undoing of past victories, of the previous films. I think the Star Wars sequel trilogy got a whole lot of flack for this. Maybe deservedly, maybe not. I would just like to sort of talk about it. Look at the issue from space right now, and this is basically doing a very similar thing in that for whatever reason, kind of no reason, the actions that had been taken up to now, right, had basically been for naught. They had been a stalling tactic at best against this thing. And BioWare's The Old Republic, Star Wars The Old Republic MMO did this thing too.
It's something that's on my mind a lot because amidst my 17 other nerd holes that people hear about, I'm also into like Western superhero comics. And a lot of the best runs basically recontextualize the premise or origin story in a way that is the same thing but different, but sort of the soul of the thing is the same. An example of this is, I think it was Rick Remender. I might just be projecting Rick Remender's name because I love the guy. It was after Ed Brubaker. But there's this Captain America run where Captain America was essentially shunted to like a futuristic microverse type of setting where he's completely alienated and has to relearn like what's like living and it's a great story, but it sort of makes you but if you're a critical type, sometimes you have to wonder about the value of sort of almost pressing reset on this character. And I think I take it as a case-by-case basis, which is borderline that answer of it depends on the execution. But I guess the reason why I'm okay with Into the Black's...
I think it's just called The Black.
The Black. Why I'm okay with Pacific Rim, The Black's version of this is... In Pacific Rim, basically the way I read it across these 3 media properties, one of which of dubious quality, humanity is always basically Rocky in the first movie getting up for another fucking round. And kaiju continuing to come out after these wild nuclear blows of the first and presumably second film. And humanity still maintaining these heroics and still holding on is at least a version of a thematic loop I can hold on to for a while.
Okay.
At some point, I would perhaps be more impressed if they could manage it in the way that Gundam kind of does these things, where just time goes on and new factions and conflicts emerge.
Oh, just in a way that people will always find a fantastic reason to kill one another that they think is a great reason, that they think is the best reason.
Exactly. Like
the first good reason that's ever existed. They found it. Here it is. Here's the reason that we should be killing one another in the name of this thing here.
Like, out of the long-running franchises I love, Gundam is probably one of the best at, like, the eternal thematic loop.
Sure.
But
the thing is that Gundam is about that eternal loop. How violence is just such a part of the human experience that we will never be rid of it.
One could say that is because Oh my god, pause. What's the name of Gundam's creator again? I'm having a
Yoshiki Tomino.
One could argue that Tomino knows how to play the goddamn game and looping it in that way. Like, think of Dark's... like, maybe he thought about how the mechanics of these franchises work.
Mm-hmm.
If you know the kind of space you're entering and you can build room for that kind of looping yourself, you're another kind. Like, think of why we love those FromSoft games so much. All the video gamey stuff they just bake mechanically into the storytelling.
Sure.
Where I am going with this is that in terms of eternal thematic loops, I give Pacific Rim's, like, a B.
Okay.
Like, it's not as elegant as some I've seen, but I find it maybe
I
bit less distracting.
definitely do not think that it is.
If I were to say a franchise where I am starting to sort of squint a little, and here's my called shot of the episode, Eva's fun. Evangelion is fun. If your ass comes to the table with the same story outline, ooh, but he went in a slightly different direction with this character, my fucking ass.
I just think it's everyone, the world, not just the people of the world who watch this show, not just Hideaki Anno, but reality itself, just so rejected the idea that it was over, that this was it when End of Evangelion premiered, that the universe contrived itself to create more of Evangelion until they got it right this time, until they could really, like, wrap their fucking heads around what this thing was and how it made them feel, and until they were satisfied, because they were so denied catharsis before that they were gonna have it this time. And Anno was like, okay, fine, I'll give it to you. Maybe. He kind of, like, played coy there for a while, because those first two Rebuild films were, yeah, this is just gonna be, like, a kind of softer version of it, and then 3 comes out. No, this is Evangelion. Who the fuck did you think you were dealing with?
Great. Solid point.
My whole point as to the eternal here we go again sort of there's got to be a better I think on TV tropes it's called the happy ending override, right? Mm-hmm. Is just like they did the thing, they saved the world, guess what, it's back, you're back to square one, right? And it make, you know, the con, right, is it makes the victory feel hollow. It makes all the previous victories feel hollow. And, you know, it can come off as dramatically lazy. But the thing is that it doesn't feel, to me, always at least, so much of a cynical fabrication of, you know, okay, so they liked it the first time, they'll like it if we do it again the exact same way the second time. It feels less like that to me, because this sort of shit just happens in real life. Throughout history. A whole lot of the time. Just the same fucking problem every, at most, half century or so. Maybe a little bit different this time than last time. You remember how many fucking crusades there were? I think it was like 12.
I mean, I know there are enough crusades that there is a debate over which ones are crusades and which ones are like the Crusades brood war.
Oh, so like arguing over which of the Fate series count as the main canon and which are side canon, what is Gaiden and what is numbered.
It's like that, only the Fate series is way worse than the Crusades.
You will get no argument from me here. No.
I do dig that, and honestly, if you want to get reverse cinema sins with it, something that is kind of a free gate with them is that the heroic ending of the first movie is basically them nuking one city in another world. And after you nuke one city in another world, the next thing they might do is get testy. They might have some issues with you. I really liked the way that first movie played, just like, in terms of loosely sketching something in a way that gave it a sense of scale, just this whole alien civilization just looking up at this thing coming down.
Oh no!
And I got to learn how you say, "Oh fuck me" in Alien. It's a very useful series of gurgles to have as a diplomat.
So premise-wise.
Okay, so premise-wise,
In
this time
series.
our focus sort of comes in on these two kids, which kind of gave me this borderline bait and switch impression of what kind of show this was going to be, to the point where I wonder if they lied to the fucking producers or something. But it's focused on these two kids who are kind of this military legacy, like their parents are Jaeger pilots.
The older of the two was training to be a Jaeger pilot prior to, shit going down. You could call it like the Shiganshima incident. I think it's actually just called the inciting incident, but when the inciting incident is a complete disaster and your parents are torn from you and the world all but ends, or at least your sort of little sector of the world all but ends. I sort of refer to that because it's you start notice this thing happening in anime. Oh, I'd say a little bit, around 2013 thereabouts, a little bit after 2013 maybe. For whatever reason, I call that the Shiganshima incident, and that was
I think
that
what
was this
Sam
one.
is getting at is get ready for the next 20 years of media critique to be framed around Cabaneri of the Iron Fortress. This show is really taking its time with the sort of ratcheting of both the stakes and the scale that these two can operate on.
Yeah, it's not very episodic.
And they're sort of just grinding through the setting, like they get a training Jaeger at the minor expense of all their friends and their refuge value.
Which I dig.
Yeah. There's a...
It very much, it sets a really good tone for this series. Although, you do kind of encounter problems when you have a tone such as the one that they're going for. And also other factors such as the TV-14 rating, the kind of janky animation that makes any sort of grim darkness a little bit less so.
I almost would pay for a transcript. I know I'm being very... I don't know if vituperative is the word when it comes to the animation here, but it is kicking my eyes in the cock. And I like so much else about this show.
I do like a lot about this show. Yeah, there's some sort of dissonance present in this show and it's a tonal dissonance that I can't quite put my finger on it, but it's there, and it exists somewhere within the subject matter, the animation, I think the color palette maybe, and then how, I guess, adult or how gory or just the rating, I guess. And somewhere between those four factors, somewhere in the little area that exists in between those four factors is the dissonance that I'm looking for, but cannot quite nail down in one sentence.
I think you are totally right about that, and I think I have my own personal theory about it. Because basically whenever someone says, like, a teen or YA thing is good, and I find out it actually is good, and they're not just fucking lying to me, I'm looking at you, girl who told me to try reading A Mortal Engine's excerpt, and... Have you ever just, like, started being less attracted to someone in real time as you consume something? It's crazy. But
I just remember like those first two Hunger Games movies and thinking that Woody Harrelson was very funny in them.
Anyway, my point is that whenever one of those things is built in a way that has some appeal to me, depending on your fandom, this is going to seem like a really pretentious way of putting it, but just where I'm at. It's basically bouncing against its cage. Like, it is basically contorting itself within the fucking comics code to tell this story in this cool way.
Sure.
And congratulations on doing it, but you will feel that dissonance sometimes, as you sometimes have to return to root.
Yeah, okay, I think that's a very good point.
And sometimes I feel that in this show when, like... example, first episode, they just have to like almost wink at the idea that these teen drama elements might be present before they completely wax all these kids.
Oh, so the thing that was making that not work as well as they wanted it for me was just the fact that it was they basically took the assets that were these character models, put a couple of scuffs on them and had them be lying down, which is with their eyes closed. Which is the danger that you run into when you can't actually draw them, when you just have these pre-rendered models that you can't really alter or you do not have the money to alter too much, because I was looking at it's just like a giant fucking, this colossal fucking multiple building size monster just came in, wrecked everyone's shit. There shouldn't even be bodies anymore, but there are, and these bodies, maybe they died of fear or something, because they look okay. They don't seem to have injuries. They seem to have dust on their clothes, and that was supposed to mean that they were dead to me. And I was just looking at them like, come on, man.
Fuck. I've got to be honest.
Like, I know it's TV-14, but you couldn't have had like a little pile of blood, or puddle of blood.
I've got to be honest. In terms of consumer forces and talent and what does and doesn't work in this show, I need you to imagine a fucking collaboration written by the Next Generation team, animated by the Exarm team, and run on fucking Cartoon Network at like 8 p.m. And that is what this show is like, and I'm really interested in it.
I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't.
Okay, that's
not the Exarm team, like.
Okay, what's the Iron Man Armored Adventures?
Sure, yeah.
Iron Man Armored Adventures, okay. Which actually might be even just a descriptive of Iron Man Armored Adventures, but whatever. Mm. My point is, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. I'm going to recommend the show for a very selfish reason.
Sure.
I want you to watch this show and bump its ratings and bump its metrics so they can get to a season 2. And listen to me. This is the only time I could ever talk directly to a staff or producer or anything. Mm-hmm. Whoever you need to punch or bribe or give an over-the-pants hand job to get some kind of second animation situation going on here.
See, this is what ended up happening with the Dragon Prince.
Yeah?
First season. Choppy. And it's really fucking super noticeable. Second, and especially third seasons. Way the fuck less so. It hurts far less to watch it.
I really hope we can get that fucking progression going. Man, it's interesting because, like, this core clash between it is so strong. I haven't even said that much about the individual story arcs or characters. I mean, I watched the whole thing. I could, like, lay out more summary, but it's really the thing that just sits on your mind as you watch The Black.
I do have a nitpick or two that we could go into.
Let's dive in.
What's the name of the AI character? It doesn't matter. It's annoying. It's an annoying character.
She is a gaming console from a 2005 webcomic. Speaking at all the human characters in snark. Like, you could be fighting better than you are, meatbags. I am trying not to die. There are children here. What's wrong with you?
The last time this was funny was with HK47. And it's forever after. Was it a cliche and was it boring? And it has not stopped being a boring cliche. Like, you know...
Cannot process better dialogue.
Like, I'm remembering fucking Mass Effect, right? Mm-hmm. And Edie. And how she was this really interesting send-up to the sarcastic computer because she was very well-intentioned and liked humans and people. And, you know, she had wit or something to her. But she was this great anti-HK47 who was a humanist. She was like an AI humanist, and that was really clever. And it
was nice.
We're just sort of back to... So, in the final episode, while she's just kind of sitting there... or while the Jaeger that she inhabits is just kind of sitting there because they had business to conduct on the ground. The sort of, I guess, main antagonist of the season, which is just this kaiju that has been following them,
They have sort of a Dahaka setup.
They got kind of a Dahaka, except he's 60 stories tall. Finds him, finds the Jaeger, attacks the Jaeger, and there's this moment that would have been more funny had this AI character not just spent the last 6 episodes being the fucking... I don't even remember the name of the fucking character, but the Xbox robot from Control Alt Delete.
I think it's Xbot.
Sure. The Jaeger is about to knock her down and start tearing her apart, and she just she actually sighs and says, "Of course." And had she been straight-faced this entire time, and then picked this, like, straight-laced patient this entire time, and picked this moment to be kind of sarcastic, that would have been fucking gut-busting. Just because the AI has more personality than you thought they did. Or, it's a fun little subversion of expectations right there. But she's just acting in line with the same fucking cliched, like, humans is so stupid kind of thing that has been out of style for so goddamn long that I don't know why they thought they might try and bring it back, because...
I don't know why we still do this after how fucking fun Data was, for one thing.
Yes. That was 30 years ago.
And that was 30 years ago.
Going on 40. No, it's closer to 40 years ago now.
I'm going to frame my dislike for the robot character with a very positive element of the show, which is say I just like the broad sweep of the characters.
Yes. Yeah, generally speaking.
The main couple's red Oni, blue Oni, opposite approaches to trauma thing works.
Let's not call them a couple.
Ooh. I'm going to just redo... Should I just redo that dialogue? Oh, God.
No, it's funny now.
Okay.
The
main siblings, the main comrades,
duo.
The battle duo.
I'm so glad that they introduced a couple more human characters, because when this show inevitably acquires a fandom, however large or small, right? You know how fandoms fucking do. If there's a character, they will find a ship for that character. And if there is only one other character, then it's gonna be that character. Doesn't matter what kind of blood ties may or may not exist, they're shipped now. So, and if there isn't another character, then they will ship that character with itself, as we saw with the fucking Lorax movie.
So I like those two. I grew to like May, who is basically their Wolverine.
Kiss my butt, I don't give a no, she's not that bad.
She's not that bad. Everything is shades at some point. And the sort of secondary antagonist kind of makes sense as just someone who might thrive in this fucking hellscape of what's left over.
I hate to be nitpicky, but he's kind of dumb.
He is kind of dumb. They should have shot him.
He's kind of really fucking dumb, and just makes the most evil decision possible.
What I'm getting
in a given moment
is that I'm just down with most of the core cast, right?
Yeah.
And every time the robot kicks in, all I hear is a fucking South Park, "Oh, Towley, you're a terrible character." I know. And then the scene continues. So yes, there is a Towley.
There is a Towley in this show, and I
guess I shouldn't over-represent her fucking screen time.
No, yeah, she's there. I just remember thinking it's like kind of ridiculous whenever the character has like a little moment where like the machine has trauma or something like that, because it found, clearly, they don't tell you, but they telegraph it. They come across the wreckage of the Jaeger that it was once the AI of, and it has this, "I'm sorry, I had a moment just now." And it was more ridiculous than affecting. Like, just, again, how telegraphed this eventual twist, because, again, they don't actually tell you that, this AI had been in this Jaeger, and, this battle had happened, right, and it was bad. And now they're in this Jaeger instead. They don't tell you any of that, but what is the line that Yahtzee gave? That if you couldn't figure out the twist to the original Assassin's Creed game, something like, I don't know, it was probably a not cool thing. But
I'm sure he said something that I can't say right now, being someone of the same disposition age he was back then. Man, how the times change. How the cookie crumbles. Probably for the better.
Probably.
And,
But
I'd like to...
if you've watched shows, if you've read books, if you've seen movies, if you've read comics,
if your mom told you stories when you were growing up,
then when they telegraph this eventual twist, you will be able to pick up on it. Even if I just told you what it was just now.
If I could temper those two nitpicks with what I like the best about this show, is the fact that, honestly, I think Pacific Rim had kind of a specific approach and appeal, which might be the problem it had with its sort of franchise expansions in the past. And I do really feel like the people writing, producing, whatever the fuck this get it a lot. And one way that really shines is just how they thought through all the little drift stuff.
Yes, I mean that was clearly. It really seems like the showrunners had the first couple movies as a blueprint, right? And the most fascinating idea that they came up with, because I wouldn't call the Jaegers fascinating. They're really fucking cool. They're really great. They're a really great foundation upon which to build the franchise, right? Because giant fucking building-sized robots, punching the shit out of kaijus, it's never not going to be cool, right? But the most interesting thing about Pacific Rim was the idea of the drift.
Yeah.
And so that seems to be what this series is most interested in.
And they think about it as both kind of like a fun sci-fi thing and as, honestly, one of the most pass-go collect $200 dramatic devices that you could have for a mecha thing, which is one of the things I always liked about it. Like the shared mental space, the second-order consequences of that.
I don't know if it's an intentional sort of homage to Gundam, but the whole here's robots, and also as a consequence of that, psychic powers.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing if Taylor is dragged out to hell with our eventual main antagonist with him. Oh, Camille.
He screamed and cried and shit and pissed.
At length.
Not that I didn't love Zeta Gundam, but Camille screamed and cried and shit and pissed.
The show, it's interesting in that it doesn't cart out the max robot action every episode.
No, they don't
it's
do
right on the line between, like, good withdrawal and come on, let me come.
Well, here's the thing. The fact that we were able to just watch the damn thing in one sitting meant that it handled its interest curve very, very well.
That's a good point.
Usually, I will get antsy when watching that much of a show at a time. It is rare that I find a series that I can sit down and watch 7, even like 3 episodes of at a time. I don't even know that I can do that with... No, I could totally do that with Full Metal Alchemist. Who the fuck do I think I'm kidding?
You could do that accidentally with Full Metal Alchemist.
Yeah.
You could be on the way to work and think, I'm going to watch an old anime intro.
And then I find myself in the fucking Bronx because I missed Westport.
You're going to find yourself in fucking Connecticut.
How did I get here? The MTA doesn't even go.
Greed is going to be saying dialogue to father.
Wait, when does... Yes, okay, no, I remember now.
They don't share scenes until later.
They don't share scenes until later, yeah. But I feel like Greed dies before they get to Father.
He's part
Second Greed dies.
Yeah, I'm
okay.
thinking...
Go
Sorry,
on.
Second Greed stands out so fucking much that I just sort of think of him as Greed as my default thing in my fucking head.
Sure, yeah, I think he's sometimes known as Greedling because Greed and also Ling. Greedling.
I dig it.
This is great. It's a great little nickname. It's like... It's fun to say, and it is indicative of, facts about his character that the first Greed did not have.
It's nice when good things come out of fandoms.
Very rarely do they.
Some very bad shit's gone fandom lately. In case it spills over to you, you need to get caught up on your whole, like, Kaguya, Hiroaka spectrum before any of that chatter.
See, remember when I said earlier in this episode, though, that I was completely divorced from social media now? So that shit ain't happening.
He is unfettered, everyone. Look at him. walking through the air above and beyond all things. Anyway, in a heroic moment, spoiler, 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 within Into the Black, the brother of our sibling pair here, does a single man drift for a bit. Well, they start this thing called ghost drifting, where you almost like partner with someone's memory.
You partner with, I guess, a memory / psychological profile that the AI has stored, more or less. I get like someone's psychological imprint.
That's interesting. Why don't they just do that all the time? He thinks some of those memories are his now, and they have not sorted that out.
I've loved the idea of having memories that aren't yours ever since they kind of alluded to that in Mass Effect 2. Like, remember that one mission where you go into the Dead Reaper and you like see recordings of people remembering shit about one another because of weird Reaper shit that happens? I don't know. There's something about that just is super fucking cool to me. This psychological horror thing of just the walls of your mind breaking down and things are let out and other things are let in and you do not know what is yours anymore and what previously was someone else's.
I always love things like that. Like, that's the kind of thing you really come to, like, soft sci-fi properties for.
Yeah, because it's ridiculous when you look at any sort of hard sci-fi, but, like, it's a fun idea.
It's a fun idea. It makes you thankful that, books like Star Maker kicked down the door 70 years ago and said, but what if? What if? Use your best fucking hardcore history voice. Imagine, if you will, Australia is a ruin, and the only way to get through it is improving your relationship with your sister. I don't know why. They're very different sci-fi writers. I always get fucking Heinlein and Samuel Delaney crossed in my head.
Samuel Delaney was the one who wasn't a fascist.
Yes. They are very, very different writers. I don't know, I think I just need to reread a book by one each and then read Heinlein and be like, oh no! Oh, troubling. Sorry, those are my bullets when it comes to Pacific Rim Into the Black.
Yeah, I think...
I said Into the Black again. Pacific Rim the Black. God damn it.
Let's just start again.
So yeah, those are my bullets when it comes to Pacific Rim the Black.
It's almost cliched to say this, but, this has promise. I'd like to see where it goes. It's definitely a pitch season, right?
Yeah.
The way that Castlevania's first season was. Although I thought that Castlevania's first season was fucking flawless.
Castlevania's first season, that was all they made. I still would have just been, like, doing little chef's kiss kind of thing.
I would have been trying to convince myself that I should have smiled because it happened, but no, I would have been fucking blue balls if they had stopped there.
Fair.
I would have been going around being like, yeah, but isn't it cool that there was an adaptation of a video game property and it was like really cool instead of absolute garbage or sanded down to nothingness? Oh, by the way, that Sonic the Hedgehog movie, it was sanded down to nothingness.
That movie makes me wonder, what is the point at which a media property doesn't exist?
I hated it more than I would have had it been absolutely fucking terrible.
Because it could give you that Cats kind of joy. And
yes.
They want to keep that from us now. They're afraid. They're afraid of the fire. But when you said this has potential, Pacific Rim the Black, so like not Sonic the Hedgehog movie, there will never be a good Sonic the Hedgehog.
It didn't have potential. When you spend that much time and effort on a story, just... I feel like we talked about this in an earlier episode, and we're just repeating what we were saying.
All right, then we'll jump off the point. Okay. But yeah, money talks. Sometimes you don't want to listen.
Yeah.
Here's my
sells, but sometimes you have to wonder who's buying.
Pacific Rim the Black having extra potential.
Yes.
Those old fucking Artemis Fowl books said, like, if a plan needs more than 3 things to go right, it's a bad plan, right?
Yeah.
To be good, the Black does not need 3 things to go right. It needs 1 thing to go right. It just needs the animation to go right. So I think we can all just buy in here, and it just has a better shot than a lot of things I've given more credit.
Yeah, I think it's got more interesting shit that I want to see more of than I think Blood of the Gods ultimately did. I find myself cooling on that series just a little bit as I get further away from it.
I mean, I think Blood of the Gods has the problem that it's not exceptional in any one way. Like,
Yeah, that's the thing. Blood of the Gods is fine. It's not. No one in it is too particularly interesting. The action scenes are all better than 5 out of 10.
honestly, we are probably just a little starved of great things in that particular tradition or lineage.
Well, no, you're Castlevania.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that we're starved, it's that we're gorged. That's the problem.
I need more chicken. It's a buffet.
See, because
We've gotta have more chicken.
that's what happened. That's exactly what fucking happened. We got Blood of the Gods, in the wake of Castlevania. And Castlevania is, it's written by Warren Ellis. It's animated by people who are just absolutely in love with what they are doing.
It was the easiest sell I've encountered in something in some fucking time.
Honest to fucking God. So you have that, and then you've got Blood of the Gods, which is, I guess, what we're now talking about, even if I previously clarified that I do not think that it's anime.
I mean, we're talking about a Netflix original. It's related.
Okay, sure. Yeah, fine. And then you have Blood of the Gods, and it's kind of melancholy in a way that's not exceptionally interesting. It's interesting enough to keep you watching it, I guess. But I do remember that we were watching that one episode at a time instead of all 7 at once, the way we were with this, because it just didn't. I don't know. The characters weren't as interesting.
Yeah,
I think that might have been the big thing.
That was sort of the flat sector of it. By the way, it occurs to me, it's really funny. We are like 50 or whatever minutes in.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time we've mentioned it's a Netflix fucking original. Into the Black. I mean,
No,
the
no,
Black, not
no,
Into
no.
the Black.
Why do you keep calling it Into the Black?
Because Into the Black sounds like a title. It sounds like something I'd have played.
No, I said it at the very beginning of the episode that it was a Netflix anime.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
Maybe it's the first time in 50 minutes you mentioned it.
In any case,
Mm-hmm.
humans of the internet that listeneth to this, I recommend it not because it will be a perfect ride, but because I believe that as 1,000 tiny ants, we can lift this leaf to a higher animation budget.
Yeah, and I also believe that you can like the things about a show that you like and have things about that show that you do not necessarily like. And that's sort of how I'm coming to terms with the sequel trilogy and what ended up happening with that. There are things that I like. There are things that I did not like. Ultimately, I enjoyed the experience overall.
The aggregate.
Yes. So, I'm going to whine about Pokemon now.
It's time to whine about Pokemon. Welcome to Weeaboo Hell's favorite reality TV show. So, what has happened with you and their pokes?
Alright, so, I'm 2 years late for this, because Pokemon Sword and Shield came out, I think, in 2019. But then 2020 happened, which, I don't know, I feel like officially, unofficially, it came out a year ago. Because, I'm not going to discount the existence of last year in a sort of, like, problematic sort of, can we just pretend that no one wrote Harry Potter sort of way? But it kind of came and went in such a way that it felt, while you're having a dream, the dream has some amount of substance. The dream takes an amount of time to get through. But when it's over, once you've woken up from that dream, it feels just like a series of images that you kind of remember a little bit. And that is what 2020 feels like to me.
If you're into metal, if your memory of any stretch of time can just have fucking Crack the Sky lyrics sort of drizzled over it, I think you can almost just count that.
Beyond the sun before it was time.
Yeah, I think you can really just scratch that whole block of time off.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so we only just got the Switch, right? So we should have gotten it at the beginning of the pandemic because we were 1,200 flush each. And there was Animal Crossing out. Morgan is convinced that they are going to get me into Animal Crossing. I don't know, maybe. But what
a challenge.
The point I'm getting at here is Pokemon was not meant to have this many quality of life features. And that is ultimately what puts the Gen 8 games in the red for yours truly. Even though there are things I like.
Like, have they just wrecked the difficulty curve, or?
It's not as though there aren't difficult fights, but fights are really only one aspect of these games, right? I don't necessarily play Pokemon for the fights. I don't necessarily love Pokemon for the fights. It's not that it's not an aspect that I do enjoy, that I do love, but Pokemon is not just its fights. There's other shit. For instance, the whole grand adventure aspect of the series, of the franchise.
I guess one of its strengths is the range of things that people take from it. Like, just brief aside, because the contrast here is funny, because you say you don't play for the fights, whereas I'm playing fucking UFC Gym Manager 3.
Okay, so yeah, I do love being the general manager of a baseball team, basically. Like, that is how... That is my personality when I play these games. It's just like, I take a look at, the next gym. It's just like, okay, so they're the team to beat this this Sunday. And, I will build my team around, like, whatever the next gym leader is. Or oftentimes what I'll do is and maybe this is almost a dishonest way of playing it. I'll see what the champion does, right? I'll see what their team looks like, and then I'll build the team to beat that team. Or if I'm playing a little bit more honestly, I'll build the team full of, shit from this generation, new additions to the roster, and maybe a couple Pokemon from previous generations, right? And I'll build it to be as versatile as possible, able to win as many battles against as many varieties of team as there could be as possible. And the sort of joy, not the joy of doing this, but the point, you're looking for two things, right? You're looking for type coverage, right? Which is to say, a Pokemon of a certain type comes out against you, and you want to be able to kill that fucking guy.
Okay, crosshairs.
Now, there are, I believe, 18 types, right? At this point, I think it's 18 types. And you have...
I'm making a thinking face.
You've got 6 Pokemon on a team. Each of these Pokemon has 4 moves. You can have 24 moves. Conceivably, 18 of those moves could be of one type each. So, any one Pokemon comes out that has a weakness against one of these types, right? And you've got them. But there's also the aspect of type diversity. That has to do with you. Now, type coverage is your ability to, hit, kill any one Pokemon that you come up against. Type diversity is your ability to avoid having that happen to you. Having it happen so that no 2 Pokemon on your team share a weakness. And if they do, then they better be bringing something extra special to the table.
I take it this is extra important if you're one of those weird Poke PvP people.
Yeah, I'm not that nuts, though.
There are deeper shades than ours, folks. There are deeper, darker waters in which things that look like Jaws but are legally distinct.
I draw the line at IVs. EVs, sure. I'll do EVs, maybe. IVs, look, if it's got a good nature and I know, that I need to kill this many Machops in order to EV train it on attack, that's good enough for me.
For comparison, I'm playing Absolver, a game where you build a thing called Combat Deck, and the different moves you can put in your Combat Deck have frame startup data on the service for you to read, and I have never effort trained anything.
Yeah.
But your point, in terms of back to your point here.
Back to my point, right? So that is that is one of the joys that I get out of this is the team building thing. The fun of that though is that in the games that I have liked in this franchise, you have, a pool of Pokemon with which to build your team. This pool gets larger as you go on, but, it is a pool. It is slightly smaller, and maybe I'm arguing against the expansion of the Pokemon roster, right? Because it started at 150, technically 151 if you knew which trainer to pause as they saw you and then fly to Saffron City, right? 150. It started at 150, and now we're up past 800. So it's, there's a lot to fucking choose from these days. Maybe that is what I'm arguing against. Because
there's an argument to be made that your roster doesn't need to be any larger than your stable of good ideas.
Could be. Well, because here's what I found. In Gen 6 and now Gen 8 especially, what happens is they did this thing that makes the world feel less like a world, where they will just throw 50 different Pokemon types at you pretty much immediately. Mm-hmm. Or 50 different Pokemon at you pretty much immediately. It's like, okay, you can catch any or all of them, and then just assemble like whatever the fucking team with no limits on anything. You don't have to. Remember Gen 1, right?
I do remember.
Gen 1. Brock. Pewter Gem.
I almost lost one of those fucking things. The Game Boy.
Yeah. Brock, Pewter Gem. What do you fucking do about him if you pick Charmander?
If I picked Charmander...
Because you've got a problem now. You've got to find some way of dealing with this asshole.
I think I had to run in there with like 5 Pidgeys on backup and play General Ripper.
See, I think the correct solution, the solution that they figured you might eventually figure out, is you get yourself a Nidoran, and eventually that'll learn Double Kick.
Oh, god damn it, motherfucker! I mean, that's an interesting idea. That would have been smart.
That would have been real smart.
Have you ever sent men to the trench, Sam?
You get a Butterfree.
Have you ever watched a machine gun chew them to mulch?
You use Confusion, and hopefully, your special attack is such to the point where they do not get a strike in on you, because if they use fucking Rock Throw, you're done for.
Have you ever looked into a Pidgey's eyes as the light strained out of it, Sam? Because I have.
The point being was that the somewhat limited pool of Pokemon that you had, even when getting towards the end game, in generations like 1, 2, 3, 1 through 5, let's say, that added something, because you have what you ended up choosing felt a little bit more meaningful than it does when you've got all these Pokemon. And Gen 8 actually nixed a few Pokemon. Like, there are a few that are unobtainable, and people went fucking nuts that they were going to be unobtainable.
Ah, yes, the great Poke Riots.
Oh my god, they were so angry.
I can't believe they burned down that Target.
I'm more upset with the artificial walls that the game puts out. For instance, in Gen 3, right? Mm-hmm. You are on Route 2. Do you know why you cannot catch an Electrike yet?
Is this that mechanic I saw where you can enter an encounter with a wild Pokemon that you are not allowed to catch for reasons?
The reason that you cannot catch an Electrike yet when you are on Route 102 in Hoenn is because Electrike is not on Route 102 in Hoenn. You start seeing them on Route 112, I believe, if I've got it right. I sunk as many fucking hundreds of hours. I better have it right. The reason that you could not catch, I think like an Onix shows up, right? Mm-hmm. In Gen 8 is because the game tells you that you can't. Not until you have X number of badges. When there is a soft wall, that is what I have decided to call this between you and that Pokemon, right? That is because it is on the other side of the world from you at this point. And that is the reason that you cannot catch it. That's fine, because I can't go out into the streets of New York and expect to see a fucking, I don't know, a Siberian tiger. No, I'm going to see fucking pigeons and rats for the most part, and maybe people walking their dogs. Those are the animals that I'm going to see. And that makes sense.
But when it's in front of you... What kind of
But what if it's in front of you and I have
fury?
like a voice from above saying you are not actually, like, let's say I go outside, I do see a Siberian tiger, and I've got this fucking voice saying this tiger is not actually here. I'm gonna start asking some questions.
Do not look at the man in the side of the room. Yeah, negative railroading like that. Maybe it'll take you out of the experience a bit. Maybe it'll take a little bit of the magic and not only pull apart the rainbow, but inform you that that rainbow is in fact the after effect of acid rain being dumped over Detroit at the moment. It's not a great game design approach.
It's not a great game design approach because it's when you're given arbitrary limits, limits are good. Limits make games fun. But when these limits are arbitrary and seem to be more just prescribed than anything else, then they stop being fun. They start making you remember that this isn't real.
It's like a bad Dungeons and Dragons interaction, really.
Yeah. And then I started this by...
The reason you can't do that is because...
Yeah. Because the DM did not write that content. Ultimately, here's the thing. Ultimately, insofar as railroading in D&D goes, the DM's not going to be able to write everything. So when the player makes some weird fucking decision that the DM does not have an answer for, because like they're not fucking omniscient, they're not going to know that you were going to do that dumbass thing. That's going to go
save
everything.
My father.
Then you can be railroading. Like, no, I didn't fucking write this campaign to be this way.
But yeah, catching Pokemon is like a base fucking function in this.
Yes,
thing.
it is the...
I get it, especially...
It is the most basic promise of this franchise. So if you're going to put that Pokemon there, then I'd better be able to fucking catch it, conceivably. Maybe it has a lower catch rate or something like... I don't know, but just... The whole open field thing in Gen 8 was an interesting experiment that I do not think ultimately worked. And the...
And you have to...
That is why this system is here, by the way. Because you could conceivably, I think, not everywhere, but go to a whole lot of places really, really quickly, pretty much immediately, in Gen 8. But, you know?
It's kind of a fascinating fuck-up to me, and I get it, because iterate into something enough times, you're gonna get some weird flaws down to it. Like, this is basically the product of inbreeding, in a way. Business inbreeding. But it's such a basic fuck-up, because... If you decide you're down to risk a little Roni and you want a physical copy because all servers die, and you pick up one of the boxes in this fucking series, the first thing you're going to see on the back, and sometimes front, of half of them is gotta catch 'em all. And when you know that you found a fucking shiny Togepi on that first route or something, and it said, you are insufficiently badged to get the egg... You might join the Mujahideen. You might take that real personal.
Oh man, fucking imagine if that fucking happened. If that thing that you're not a bad enough dude to catch yet ends up being shiny. Morgan would have thrown the fucking controller through the TV. Jesus Christ.
I know what would have happened because it's a movie called Falling Down.
Yeah.
They would have fallen down... belting machine gun fire into a post office.
So here's a fun little segue for you. So Falling Down was a man who's been driven to violence by life's little inconveniences, right?
Yeah.
There are no inconveniences in Pokemon Sword and Shield. Not really. And that is what I'm going to be whining. That was the original thing that I was whining about.
Yeah.
In this is that so HMs, they've been more or less seeming to want to phase them out ever since Gen 6. Because I guess people didn't love the idea of having to have the sixth member of their team just at any given time be, you know,
a cab,
or just, you know, this dude who cuts things down and moves boulders, something like that. I don't know. I get it. I get why people didn't necessarily like it, but I still think that it was a mistake to remove it as an aspect from the game.
I mean, what they need to do is fill that design space with something.
With something else that you need to think around, right? Because instead you have, instead of surf, for instance, right? You have the, your bike just floats on water.
My solution, extremely inelegant in a way, but the fucking Bismarckian solution to this is just make HM its elements equivalent of Hyper Beam or fucking Blast Bird or whatever. No one will ever notice again.
I disagree with that only because
It'll make Blast Bird less special.
Yeah, it would make all the other moves less. It would get samey.
I also like how with Fly they fuck off for a turn.
Oh yeah, Fly. I mean, someone's always gonna have Fly on my team, and someone's always gonna have Surf on my team because I'm just gonna have a water type and a flying type, or at least someone who can learn Fly on my team, and they're gonna know Fly, and they're gonna know Surf, and that's just a constant in every single game I've played. I mean, I do somewhat appreciate that this allows you to open up your team to have greater move diversity rather than just, and you know, not just having to have a flyer and a swimmer on your team. Sure. But
Capital B.
I think there is so much less thinking that you have to be doing in Gen 8 as a result of all of these quality of life updates. For instance, the ability to access the box from anywhere. You can do that now. You can access the box from anywhere, or the PC or whatever from anywhere. You do not have to have HMs. There's other shit.
In short, be careful about how much of the actual gameplay / thought you send off your game. At some point it becomes autopilot, and then you are just kind of watching an animated series. You have to fiddle with the remote for 20 minutes at a time for some reason between cutscenes.
So there are things that I liked about this because they have character animations now. And this is almost a give and take thing, because the give is that you no longer have to kind of come up with a personality for the protagonist yourself. They now have a personality. The take is that you can no longer come up with a personality yourself for the protagonist. They now just have a personality that you've been given.
I can't see anything for the fucking Hoenn dude, but the fucking Nuzlocke guy now. It's fucking
infectious. No, I as just a long-suffering, frustrated.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's great. Anyway, children of the world, we have loved talking about Into the Black. Motherfucker! God damn it! Shit! Fuck! God!
From now on, I'm calling you Dragon Turtle.
Jesus. We have enjoyed talking about Pacific Rim, The Black, and Pokemon, Into the Sword, and Into the Shield. But we have got a mosey for now. This is Weeaboo Hell.
I'm going to press my
It's Weeaboo Hell.
Into the stop record. Fuck me.